Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Monday, October 21st. It is another one of these Mondays as the New York Jets fell to the Pittsburgh Steelers last night to fall to 2-5 on the season. And today, as we always do on these day after podcasts, kind of a therapy pod. We'll break down some more takeaways that I have from last night's game, the overall state of the Jets, where this team goes from here, and a couple other notes as well that I want to get into. Today is episode 410 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I appreciate you all, as always, for joining me either here on YouTube or on all the different audio podcast platforms. For those tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. A lot to get into today, but before we do, we got to hit up our podcast partners, starting with our friends over at BetUS, America's favorite online sportsbook. October is the best month of sports, in my opinion, and I think a lot of other people would agree with me. You've got World Series starting up on Friday. Let's go Yankees. Yankees-Dodgers, awesome matchup. You've got NFL season in full swing. You've got the NBA starting tomorrow night. You've got the NHL in full swing, all four major sports in full swing. And if you want to get in on the betting action, there's no better way to do it. There's no better place to do it than with BetUS. Plus, my viewers, use my link, which can be found in the description of this video, to get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first three deposits up to $2,000. October, we're in the heart of it. Now's the time to get on the betting action. Head on over, BetUS, use my link. 125% sign-up bonus, first three deposits up to $2,000. Also, our friends over at Huga House. If you want either of the Aaron Rodgers 20th season special edition hats, you want to head on over there, or any of the other awesome hats that Huga House sells, which that's not even all of them I just showed you. There are plenty other awesome hats. If you want to get your hands on any of them, and at checkout, use promo code BUBS for 15% off. So get yourself some swag, get it at a discounted rate, 15% off with promo code BUBS. Also, our friends over at SeatGeek, looking to get to a World Series game, looking to get to any sporting event, looking to get to a concert, looking to get to a play, looking to get to a show. If you're looking to buy a ticket for an event, SeatGeek has it. And if you haven't used SeatGeek before, use my promo code on your first purchase, Bubs on Sports, to get $20 off your first purchase and get yourself out to some awesome events. Again, not just sports, any event, anything you can think of. SeatGeek has it. Bubs on Sports, $20 off your first purchase, and get yourself out to any type of event that you want to get out to, and use our friends over at SeatGeek. All of those links, as always, can be found in the description of the video. So today, it's another one of these podcasts, and I'll be honest, and I don't know if I mentioned this last week. I don't think I did. I did. I know I mentioned it against Denver, because the Denver loss was just the typical Jets loss, very similar to the Giants game last year, where, except this time, the Jets didn't luck out and they didn't end up, making their game-winning field goal attempt. Zerline, of course, missed it. He's been terrible this year. But I really thought we were done doing these pods. I mean, I really did. Going into the season, I think we all really believed in this team. I certainly bought into this team. As much as last year was brutal, as much as I called for them to blow it up last year, I said it on this podcast. I'm on record for saying it, that I would have fired everyone. I would have blown it up, even if it meant losing Aaron Rodgers, just because I saw all of these problems seeping through the cracks. But being a Jets fan and having a sickness like all of us fans do that watch this team week in and week out, where they just suck us in every single year, I bought into this nonsense. We all believed again. We all bought into all these one-year contracts and this one-year window with Aaron Rodgers. And here it is, blowing up in the Jets' face, similar to the way it did last year. When he went down 4 snaps in and the Jets had no backup plan, they finished 7-10, did the same thing over again this year, realized Rodgers not the same quarterback, and here we are at 2-5, already talking about the offseason, and it's October 21st. We haven't even hit Halloween. Kids have not even gone trick-or-treating yet, and we are already talking about the offseason. We are already talking about the draft. We are already talking about 2025, and candy has not been given out yet on Halloween. That is all you need to know about the state of this Jets football team after another demoralizing loss in Pittsburgh where the team melted. There's no other way to put it. They were up 15-6. They had a chance to go into halftime at least up 18-6. If Rodgers doesn't make a stupid mistake and throwing that interception before the half, where you get a change of momentum from going to potentially being up 18-6, at worst 15-6. Even up 9 going into halftime was a whole lot better than throwing an interception. Even if that drive stalled, it's better than throwing an interception, putting Pittsburgh on their 1-yard line, letting them punch it in, making it 15-13, going into halftime where you had good momentum and you lose it all in the final minute. So anything would have been better than that. All they had to do was not turn the ball over on that drive, find a way to get points, or at least just stall out the clock and just go into halftime up 9. You get the ball to start the half, and the Jets couldn't even do that. So this team's demoralizing. But my point is, and I know I kind of went on a tangent there, but my point is, I really thought we were done with doing these episodes. Because just like the rest of us, I think we all believe that this team was different, that we all believed this year was going to be different. And it looked like it was going to be different after they started 2-1. I mean, New England feels like New England doesn't even feel like this season. It doesn't even feel like last year. New England feels like a decade ago. It really does. I mean, heck, the first half last night feels like a year ago. That's how bad that second half was. The first half seems like such a distant memory at this point with the way things ended last night, getting outscored, allowing 31 unanswered points after you had the Tyler Conklin touchdown reception, his first touchdown since 2022, because there wasn't a quarterback competent enough last year. And let's be honest, Rodgers isn't even playing that well either, but to even get him the football. So it was his first touchdown. That Tyler Conklin touchdown pass, the Jeff Ulbrich challenge flag drop, feels like it happened in 2023. It doesn't even feel like it happened last night. Last night feels like the second half was like a totally different season, and the first half was a totally different season. That's how last night felt. That's how every Jet game feels at this point, with the way they're losing these games, the way they're melting, and the pain that you have to go through watching the 60 minutes of grueling football that the Jets put out there for their fans every single week. But like I said, I thought we were done. But here we are. And I called this last week. I said it last week. And that's why I know I'm getting worked up right now, because that's just what this team does to all of us. Last night, wasn't frustrated at all. I was just beat. I was defeated. I am defeated. We've all got to accept the fact that this team just stinks. I've accepted the fact that this team stinks the minute the Denver loss was terrible. That loss, you kind of felt like, okay, that's 2023 all over again. That was the first scary sight. And in the Minnesota loss was kind of the icing on the cake, where it's like, okay, this is same old Jets. They're not going anywhere. Then you fire the coach. You still lose to Buffalo. Okay, you trade for Devontae. You still lose to Pittsburgh. There's nothing else this team can do. But we called it. I mean, Devontae Adams, we knew. And there's a lot of Jets fans this morning that are eating a pretty large piece of humble pie, because there's a portion of the fan base that thought Devontae Adams would come in here and change everything. But if you know anything about this team, if you know anything about football, you know that one player is not going to change this organization, not going to change the stench of this organization, not going to change the problems that are on this team right now. The offensive line, the defensive line, the coaching staff, the kicker, so many problems, the front office, the owner, all the way at the top. It's like a melting candle. That's what the Jets are right now. They are a melting candle. They're starting to melt at the top, and it's just getting lower and lower and lower. Soon there's going to be nothing left. That's what they are right now. And really, if we're being honest, there isn't anything left. The only reason I say soon there's going to be nothing less is because soon the season's going to actually be over. 17 games are going to be up, and we're going to be in the offseason. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting pretty close to the season actually being over, where there's no games left. There are still games to be played, even though the season is over, from a standpoint of them having success the rest of the way. We know it's not happening. But there's so many problems. And that's where I'll start, I guess. Just the stench of this team. It's just, the stench of this team is so bad. This organization just is so incredibly poor run. The culture is a disaster. And the Jets have learned here that one guy is going to make a difference. We all thought, oh, Aaron Rodgers coming back, everything's going to change. The culture is going to be fixed. Aaron Rodgers is going to change everything. All of a sudden, the coaching staff that we knew was incompetent, all of a sudden isn't going to be incompetent. And here we are, coaching staff still incompetent. Offense still not consistent enough. Rodgers not playing well enough. And they're 2-5. And like I said, and this just goes back to it, and I did buy in for this season. I did 100%. I was fired up during training camp. I'm not going to backtrack those, but I'm also not going to backtrack my comments that I made last season where I said I would blow it up, even if it meant losing Rodgers. Because to me, the whole Rodgers timeline, to me, got ruined the second he went down on the turf in week 1 of last year. The second he went down, the whole Rodgers timeline, the whole all in this, all in that, it was over. It was over. It's just you knew it was never going to work out. And here we are, and it's not working out. He is not the same player he once was. And there's nothing more this team can do. I don't care. I couldn't care less. I don't even think the words, this is the first time I'm saying his name today, Hassan Reddick. And I've talked to a lot of people today about the Jets, a lot of people just crapping on me as a Jets fan. That happens every Monday. That's what makes these Mondays so miserable. It's not only just some of the games. It's just seeing everybody that knows I'm a Jets fan and them just crapping on me all day because, well, I would too if I was, if I saw a Jets fan and I wasn't a Jets fan. Like, I guess the old saying, don't knock a man down when he's already down. We're already down, but Jets fans, we're going to get a lot of hate still. People are going to crap on us all the time because the team stinks and that's what happens. But either way, like, there's nothing more they can do. I couldn't care less. Reddick's coming back. He's not going to do anything. Heck, even though Jeff Ulbrich doesn't even know if he's going to play Sunday. I don't even know if he's going to play. So what? Week 8, we're going to wait till Halloween. They're going to be they lose to New England. They're going to be 2-6. You're going to be able to get tickets if they lose to New England for Houston game on Thursday night. You're going to be able to get tickets for $30, $20. They might as well sell those tickets for free. I mean, really, if we're being honest here. You lose to if they lose to New England, forget about it. Then you're just talking about tanking at that point. But there's nothing more they can do. The culture is terrible. And you heard not Saleh. You heard Ulbrich. There's 2 alarming comments last night. One that last night was made, one today that was made. Aaron Rodgers last night talked about how the energy he felt was down from the start. And then he talked about how they started to score early on, had some success, and it started to pick up. But early on in the game, the energy was down. There wasn't much excitement. It just felt like there was, from Rodgers' kind of words, he said, there was, they didn't feel the energy. Primetime games, Sunday Night Football. Rodgers mentioned how much he loves playing on Sunday night. The only thing on, although last night, of course, there was, the Mets and Dodgers on, but mostly the only thing on TV, everybody's tuning in, all eyes across the country on Sunday night, primetime spot. You want to show up. The Jets weren't ready. They didn't have any energy. They didn't have any urgency. There wasn't any excitement. There was none of that. And that just preaches to the losing culture. That just preaches to what has been built here. It's a culture of justifying losses. It's a culture of always talking about how great they're practicing, always posting practice clips, all this nonsense, and never, ever putting it out there on the field and actually getting results. The culture, there is no culture. There isn't even a culture. It's nothing. It's a big nothing burger in that locker room. And an Ulbrich today talked about a lack of energy, although he said he felt it at halftime, which brings up my next point. This Jets team, and I'm going to go off the grain here for a second and talk about Saleh. And I know Saleh's not here, and Saleh's probably right now, he's probably thanking the football gods. He probably called up Woody this morning. I would have called up Woody if I was Saleh this morning and say, dude, thank you so much for firing me. I'm sitting on my couch watching this stuff, and I'm still getting paid. This is so much better. I don't have to go into work today. I don't have to deal with this crap. I'm getting paid. I'm watching the games. This is great. Thank you for firing me. Saleh, he's actually better off not even having a job right now. Still getting paid. He doesn't have to deal with this nonsense. And let's be honest, Saleh would have been fired at this point anyway, even if they hung on to him for another game. He would have gone fired after Buffalo. But you get the point. Saleh right now is probably like, oh, thank you, Woody. I don't got to be a part of this junk anymore. But you talk about the energy at halftime, and I kind of want to off the grain there a little bit, but back to kind of on track. Robert Saleh, the minute he took over as head coach in 2021, talked about you're really going to find out about this team. He really can't wait to see what this team can do until they hit adversity. When adversity strikes, that's when you're going to learn about the team. That's when you're going to learn about the players. That's when you're going to learn about us as coaches. That was all the things he was saying, talking so much about handling adversity. And as a Jets fan, you hope that he knew how to handle adversity. He would get the guys to handle adversity. And during Saleh's tenure, they could never handle adversity. They never could. And then now it's crept into the old brick run here, which has been 2 weeks of the same nonsense we saw with Saleh. Actually, in ways, it's been worse because the defense is garbage now. At least under Saleh, the defense was good. Right now, the defense is lost. There is part of me that thinks Ulbricht's overwhelmed and he's not focusing enough time on the defense to be the play caller. There is part of me that thinks that. Because letting Russell Wilson go out there last night and do what he did is embarrassing on so many levels. It's one thing to have a rough outing against the Bills, a team that will be right in the mix again to take home the Lombardi. It's another thing to look lost against Russell Wilson, who hasn't played a game since Christmas Eve of last year and is washed. He's not even any good. He hasn't been good in 3 years. That's a whole nother story. And that's another sad part about last night. Russell Wilson outplayed Aaron Rodgers. What does that tell you about Aaron Rodgers right now? Russell Wilson outplayed him last night. I mean, are you kidding me? Aaron Rodgers got outplayed by Russell Wilson. That's all you need to know about him right now. But the team can't handle adversity. The culture is terrible. That's always been set up by the owner, because the owner for years now is always all he cares about. All what he cares about is ticket sales. All he cares about, money in his pockets. That's all he cares about. And that's why there's never been any wins. That's why there's never been any wins with this guy, or at least recently during this drought. Ending halves, starting halves, all terrible. They can never finish. It's so weird. They can never finish strong to end a first half. They can never do it. Never. There's always some sort of blip in the radar, bump in the road whenever the Jets end the half. And then they can never start half strong either. I mean, ending halves and starting halves, I don't get it. Last night, they end the half with the interception, right? Brutal play by Rodgers, terrible pick, interception. Then they come out of halftime, and first play, they false start on Garrett Wilson. Like, are you kidding me? You just went into halftime, and you had to make adjustments. You come out of half. Everybody's got to know the play. You had a half to talk it over. You had time to talk it over in the locker room, and you come out and have a false start. That's just poor coaching. That's just pathetic on so many levels. That's what that is. So, no handling adversity, culture terrible. There's nothing more to do. Last offseason, like I said, they should have made changes then. They should have made a change on the offensive staff then. They should have made a change of head coach then. That's another thing with the Jets. They're always too late. They're always doing things too late. Always. You know, as much as we want to say same old Jets would have been to hang on to Saleh the rest of this year, that would have been same old Jets. When it wasn't working, they had to make a change, and we said that. They had to. Whether it's going to work out or not, it's not working out right now, but they had to make a change. They couldn't ride him out any longer. But really what is same old Jets is the fact that they let Saleh even back into the building after what happened last season. And a lot of that falls on Rodgers' plate because we were in Aaron Rodgers' jail. He wanted all the control. He thought he could come in and change everything and all that nonsense. And that brings me to my next point with Rodgers. And I'm going to be harsh for a second here. Not for a second, probably a couple minutes. And like I said, you know, if you're still tuned in here, you know, if you love Rodgers, you want to tap off the video, you can tap off the video. I honestly don't care because you know what you're going to get on this pod. You're going to get my raw, honest assessment of the team. But Rodgers he's not the same. He's not the same player, number one. And Rodgers is getting a large smack in the face right now of realizing that, number one, he's not the same player he once was. But number two, that he can't do this all on his own. He's getting a large dose of reality that he wants to bring in all of his friends. Oh, I'll bring in Devontae. We'll find ways to win with Devontae. Can't do it. Oh, it's okay. Bring back Salah. I love Salah. Bring back, Hackett. He's great. I love Hackett. I'll overcome all this. Don't worry, guys. I'll overcome all this. We'll trade for Devontae. Everything will be okay. And look here. We're 2-5. They've traded for Devontae. There's nothing left to do. Rodgers is washed. He's done. He's shot. And I said at the beginning of the year when people were calling that he was washed, specifically after that Denver game, I didn't necessarily, I didn't totally was on board with it, but there's been some killer interceptions. Minnesota, last drive of the game, interception. Last night before halftime, you're driving, trying to get points, extend the lead, throws an interception. The reason we brought Rodgers here was for big moments in big games, for big moments late in games, closing out halves, all those things that he does very well. Primetime games as well. That's another reason, right? When you're in the spotlight, you're on primetime, he's able to show up and dominate. He's able to show up and kind of have a clutch gene. And he's been everything but that. And, there's also part of him, too, where it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of urgency. Like, everything's okay in Rodgers land. Everything's all right. Aaron, you want to bring in another friend of yours? I'm getting sick of the whole Rodgers experiment. And I don't understand the people. What their infatuation is with bringing Rodgers back next year. People are like, oh, Rodgers and Devontae, they'll both be back next year. That's great. Who wants that? I don't want Rodgers back next year at this rate. If he keeps playing like garbage, I don't want him back. It's going to set the year. The team's already so far back. It's going to set them back another year. If Rodgers keeps playing like this and you bring Rodgers back next year, that will be a terrible decision because he's not the same player he once was. He's cooked. He's shot. He's washed. He's been terrible in big moments. He's been the complete opposite of what we brought him in to be. And let's just tell like it is. He's banged up. He's 40 years old. He looks like a 40-year-old. He looks like a guy that's coming off a torn Achilles. He looks like a guy that is ready for retirement. That's what Aaron Rodgers looks like. You want to be a fanboy and come at me and say I'm wrong and say I'm too negative? Fine. I don't give a crap. What I see is a quarterback that's washed. I see a quarterback that's not the same player. I see a quarterback that consistently this year in big spots and big games is not delivering, which is part of the reason, a big reason why he was brought here. One of his specialties in his career has been delivering in big spots. I mean, the guy's got 7 interceptions. His numbers are some of the lowest he's ever had through the first 6-7 weeks of a season since his career began. I mean, this guy is done. And there's people that want him back. So what? He's going to come out and be 41 years old. He's going to be better? No, he's shot. He's done. Devontae's not going to be here long-term either. Devontae did nothing last night. What did Davante Adams do last night? Tell me. Tell me what Davante Adams did last night other than tackling Beanie Bishop. That was his highlight last night. That was his highlight. Which, to be honest, and I did say that Devontae can't play defense in this stuff. I did say that. Maybe he can. Maybe Devontae can play defense. We're banged up in the secondary, Devontae. Maybe he could go out there and play defense and, play corner for us because we're banged up. And don't even get me started on Sauce either. And that brings me to my other point. So, and again, like Rodgers too, he's always blaming others, or he does take accountability, but there is also part of him where he does blame others, like Mike Williams running the wrong route, all that nonsense. I'll say it again. The whole Rodgers timeline, it all got screwed up 4 snaps into the season. And we all got bought back in this season because they made a couple moves for a couple household names, guys that were past their prime, Mike Williams, Tyron Smith, the list goes on. And here we are. Still suck. Still suck. And don't even get me started on Sauce Gardner. I mean, Sauce has been terrible this year. And the Jets might want to hold off now and actually wait on what they're going to do with that contract. Because Sauce has regressed in a major way this year. And they will just go and pay him. That's what they will do. They're going to go give him the highest paid contract for a corner ever. That, no doubt they will do it still, but he has been awful this season. Awful. No other way to put it. And that's part of it as well. If we're being honest here, the New York Jets, even us as fans, we overrate our own players. We overrate the heck out of our own players. Yeah, there's a lot of talent on this team, but I do think some of the talent's overrated. I really do. And this year, it's kind of coming true that some of that talent's overrated, especially on offense. You can talk about the names on the back of the jersey, hype them up all you want. This is not a team. They're not a team. They can't play as a team. The culture's terrible. The quarterback's washed. They don't have a coach. They don't have a competent owner. The general manager is a puppet. I mean, what does Joe Douglas even do right now? Woody's turning into his own ways. Woody's panicking right now and turning into that meddlesome owner that he once was, where he's basically just trying to go all in, panicking, and just to Devontae. Right? Panic and go bring in Devontae. Now we're panicking and bringing in Hassan Reddick. And Woody, reports say from Schefter, he was very much involved in the contract. Douglas had no say in that. That was all Woody Johnson. All Woody Johnson. And it seems like recently Woody Johnson's actually been hands-off recently. But he just doesn't have the right football people in place making football decisions. Now he's getting back to that meddlesome way where he's not letting football people make football decisions. He's jumping in. He's starting to meddle. He's meddling, jumping in and becoming this powerful owner that he once was, which is why this team's been drilled straight into the ground for years and has not gotten back up. So Douglas is gone too at the end of the year. Maybe that's next, right? Reddick, they bring in Reddick. Okay, let's say they lose to New England. Do you then fire Douglas? Is that your last ditch effort? Okay, guys, we fired Douglas. We fired the GM. Good God. Imagine if they fired Douglas middle of the year. Just imagine that. They fire Douglas, fire their coach. They change their offensive play call. They trade for Devontae, trade for Reddick, and they still got, bring in Reddick. They still got 2 wins. That would be typical Jets. They make more moves than they have wins. I mean, at this rate, the Jets, they've made the same amount of coaching moves as they have wins. Changed the play caller on offense, and they fired the coach. 2 moves. They've got 2 wins. It's working real well for them. Working real well. All in year, baby. All in year 2 and 5. All in year 2 and 5. Jets football. Come get some, baby. This is it. This is it. Jets football. Man, we're back. We're back. Another season over in October. And let's be honest, they're looking down the road. Who's going to want to come here as a head coach? Who's going to want to come here as a head coach? Nobody. Nobody's going to want to come here as a head coach. Because especially, and Douglas is going to be gone, but nobody's going to want to come here as a head coach. It's such a terrible, terrible destination. You're not going to have a quarterback. You'll have Tyrod. He's under 2 years. So you have Tyrod. You have a Tyrod bridge year. Maybe Jordan Travis competes with Tyrod for the starting job. But let's pump the brakes on Jordan Travis hype. The guy hasn't played 1 snap in the NFL preseason, hasn't played a snap in training camp. Let's pump the brakes on the Jordan Travis hype. You might want to sit here and say, oh, don't worry, we got Jordan Travis 2025. The guy hasn't taken 1 team rep in training camp. Can we slow down a little bit? Like Jordan Travis next year is going to be under center 2025? No. You'll have a Tyrod on a bridge year. And you also have a coach that knows he's going to come in here, not going to have much power. Like somebody will come here. They will. I mean, look, David Canales went to Carolina. There will be a coach that comes here. You're not going to get one of the household names. You're not going to get a Vrabel. You're not going to get a Ben Johnson. I would love Ben Johnson. You're not going to get those guys because the organization is such a crap shoot. It's such a disaster. Those guys aren't going to come here and deal with Woody's nonsense, deal with all the issues, deal with guys soon requesting a trade. There's going to be, Brees, Garrett. Those guys are going to eventually request trades. They're going to want out. This was supposed to be our young nucleus, our young core. that we build around and ultimately win with. And we're doing the complete opposite of that. And I said it last night. The Jets last season, like legitimate, and this is true. We felt better about the Jets last year through 7 games than this year through 7 games. Because they were 4-3 last year. This year they're 2-5. That's it. And that's too where you don't know what's next. This team has tried everything. Everything. And that's another reason why, as a Jet fan, you had to buy in at the beginning of the season. Because this was their only other thing that the Jets haven't tried. They've tried the bridge quarterback route, rookie quarterback. They've tried the offensive mind. They've tried the defensive mind. They tried the culture guy. They've tried 2 rookie quarterbacks. They've tried all these options. This was their last chance. This was something they haven't done before. I mean, you can go back to Favre in 2008, but a little bit different here. This was finally, we had a quarterback that wanted to be here. We wanted him and he wanted us. We were all in. And it's still blowing up in your face. And that's why legitimately you don't know where this team's going to go, because they've tried everything and they just suck every single season. Now you just have to hope that one year they kind of just fall and trip into the playoffs, just kind of in a miracle way. Like they just, one year they get a team that wins 9 games and that's about it. Blip in the radar and that'll be it. Feels like we're back to the 2 years away from being 2 years away, because this team's not going to be bad enough to get a top 10 pick. I know they're number 5 right now, but they're going to start win games. They'd probably beat New England. I'd be shocked. As bad as they've played, I would be shocked if they lose to New England. Maybe not shocked, actually, because it is the Jets after all. But New England's terrible. The Jets are bad. New England's a different level of bad. They are actively not trying to win. They are tanking. They're in a rebuild year. So they're not going to win. Jets will win that game. The Jets will find a way, like they always do. They'll win a couple meaningless games late in the season this year. They'll get to like 7 wins, 6-7 wins. They'll bump themselves out of the top 10 of the draft. They'll probably get somewhere, I don't know, 11 to like 15 like they were last year, and 10 to 15 like they were last year. And they'll find a way to, be out of the top 10 where you can't take any of the top quarterbacks. They'll go Tyrod on a bridge year. Then they'll bring in a rookie 2026. And then you'll bring him in, and then you got to kind of wait a year. It's just 2028, maybe. That's the time. Is that the timeline here? 2028? Only 4 years, right? The next election year. Election year this year. We got to wait until another election year until the team can maybe find a way to muster up some wins. But, yeah, man, this sucks. This stinks. So, yeah, 2-5. And number 5 pick right now in the draft. That's what's so weird. The Jets, according to ESPN stats and info, still have a 47% chance of making the playoffs because they have a very weak schedule, which is crazy to think because they also have the top 5 pick in the draft. I think that's also kind of just the national media right now on the Jets. Like, they're not bad enough to be a top 5 pick in the draft, but they're also not good enough to be a playoff team. So they're kind of standing in the middle there. That's what's so weird about it. But look, you lose to New England, you got to assume at that point the tank's on. Like at that point, you just start tanking. You lose to New England, you get to 2-6. I mean, then it's over because then you're going to lose to Houston. Even if you beat New England, you're probably not beating Houston on Monday night or Thursday night rather. This team's going to be 3-6. 3-6. They're not going to beat the Texans. There's no way they beat the Texans. This defense, no way. So you lose to New England. Let's imagine if they lose to New England and you lose to Houston, you'd be 2-7. At that point, you then start to look at just tanking. Then you seriously start to wonder, all right, just tank and go draft Cam Ward or somebody like that. Might as well. If you're 2-7, it's like, you're not, at that point, you just say, you know what? You just tank, win 3 games, get a top 3 pick, go draft a quarterback. That's at that point. But they'll still find they'll win meaningless games. They'll be like Let's see. They'll beat New England. They'll lose to Houston. They'll be what, 3-6. They'll probably split the Cardinals and the Colts, so they'll be 4-7. Then they'll probably go on a run. They'll win 2 straight games. They'll beat Seattle. They'll beat Miami. They'll be 6-7. Then they'll lose to Jacksonville. Then they'll beat the Rams. They'll be 7-7. And then they'll lose to Buffalo and Dolphins. They will find a way to go win 3-4 games in the final 6 weeks to get to 7 or 8 wins and tank their draft stock like they always do every year. That's what the Jets will do. They'll win meaningless games late in the season, and the organization will try and buy us into, oh, we finished the season strong. Now let's go draft the guy. Now let's go draft, have a great offseason, and we'll be back in 2025. Whoopee. Look at us sitting on our rear ends in January again. That'll be the Jets. Meaningless games down the stretch. They'll find a way to win. So anyway, that'll do it. We'll talk to you guys as the week rolls on here. Any other news? Tomorrow's Tuesday, so maybe there's news tomorrow because there's been news the last 2 weeks on Tuesdays. So does Douglas get? God, if Douglas gets fired tomorrow, I'm actually convinced it's just Tuesdays that the Jets are going to make moves from here on out. Unfortunately, they don't play on Tuesdays. They've done more on Tuesdays this year than they have on Sundays, which is pretty sad. If you think about it, the Jets have only 1 win this year on Sunday. That's crazy. 7 weeks in, we have 1 win on a Sunday. Now, part of that's not all their fault. They haven't played much on Sunday, but, well, not really. They played, well, yeah, sort of. No, that's not. That is their fault. They've only played Monday, Thursday, Monday. Well, 4 of their 7 games have actually been on Prime. No, Sunday, last night. They've only won 1 game on Sunday. That's it. The other game came on Thursday. So that's pretty sad. They've had 1 Thursday night game. They've won that. They've had how many Sunday games? 1, 2, 3, 4 Sunday games? No. 1, 2, 3, 4 Sunday games. Yeah, because San Fran was Monday, New England was Thursday, Buffalo was Monday. So they've had 4 Sunday games. They're 1-4 in Sunday games. Or, yeah, 1-4 in Sunday games. That's pretty bad. God. They stink. Anyway, I can't stop I got to stop rambling. I will talk to you guys later. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in, even throughout the lows of another very typical Jets season. Talk to you soon. As always, JETS, Jets, even through the pain and the suffering.